life in the age of AI. Nidhi Sudhan, co-founder, Citizen Digital Foundation, on the essentials for young adults on the algorithms that make their way into their mind space and the increasing omniscience of generative AI. Nidhi is an advocate of responsible media and technology. She has spent over 20 years in content, editorial brand, and data analytics across organizations in India, UAE, Greece, and UK. She has led the launch and success of 3 radio stations in India and UAE, and has worked with organizations like Stark Communications, Radio Mirchi, Channel 4 Radio Network, Droppin' I Have It, I hope I've got this pronunciation right, Nidhi, and Chelsea Football Club. Nidhi positively engages education, dialogue, and collaboration to foster regenerative solutions to address wicked techno-social challenges. Nidhi is co-founder and trainer at Citizen Digital Foundation.
Good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Good to be here. I'm really grateful to the Neve Literature Festival team for addressing a topic like this in a time when we know that generative AI is taking over. One of our first interactions with artificial intelligence has been on social media, which often kind of falls at the back of your minds because we don't really think about how deeply artificial intelligence has permeated into our lives through social media. So today's session essentially is about exploring 2 elements. The topic given to me was AI's or algorithms interactions with our mind spaces, and then how generative AI is increasingly becoming omniscient, or is it? So these are 2 really vast areas. Won't be able to address the entire expanse in 40 minutes, but I'll try my best to boil it down through images, visuals, and a lot of information. Some of it I might be rushing through because there's a lot, but there's always an avenue to ask questions at the end of it. I'll open the floor up for that. So, hello, digital natives. I'd also like to mention that this session is essentially PG-13. So anybody under the age of 13, if you're attending, it's either at your own risk or at your parents' risks. But there are some sensitive elements that I'll be talking about, which is why it's entirely your call. Digital natives, I don't think I have to explain this term to you. Everybody who was born after the internet happened. So some of us here, especially if we could have parents and educators also join this session, I think we'll have a good contrast of thinking and how the whole tech ecosystem has evolved. And I promise it won't be too technical. It'll be some fun. There's a lot of interaction as well. So, thank you. Excellent. The clicker works. That's good. So life in the age of AI. The images might be a little too dramatic, but they are illustrative for a purpose, right? So what is it that gets us so glued to our screens? And this does not only apply to growing adults, it also applies to grown-up adults, right? So let's move. I don't think I have to stick to my introduction. I've had the honor of a couple introducing me. So I've spent about 20 years in media. I started off as a copywriter, and my last job was at Chelsea Football Club in data analytics. So I've done the entire spectrum of marketing, branding, and communications, and the power of communications. So that's about me, and just wanted to get to know the audience a little bit. So show of hands on a few questions. Anybody knows what the legal age to start a social media account is? 12 years. Anybody else? 18? 14? Right. It's actually 13. So before 13, you cannot start a social media account in your own name. But has anybody here, especially the students, had social media interactions before the age of 13? Yes. Yes. Most of everyone. Yeah, that's right. So that was the second question. Now another slightly off the beat question. How many of the youngsters here are often said that you have it really easy now, in our times it was so difficult? Now you have so many options, so easy for you now. Show of hands, do you get told this? Yes, a lot of youngsters will resonate with that. But I think, and I think Ashim earlier had also highlighted this bit, it's a little bit more difficult now than it was for our generation because you have too many options. When you're searching for knowledge, when you're searching for entertainment, when you're searching for community building, social life, too many options. It's not easy to make a decision. When you approach something with focus and want to find something on the internet, you go online, but there are 10,000 things to distract you. It's not easy. It's not easy to learn and make sense of the world today, right? Parents here, educators here, have you heard of any of these names? Can you please give me a show of hands on how many people have heard these names? Now the next question is, how many of you use any of those? Many hands have gone down, that's right. There's one person who still has her hands up. So now my heart goes out to the parents because it's not easy for you either. You know that children are using a lot of new age social media, gaming platforms. You're familiar with it, but you don't know how it defines children's experiences, right? We don't know how it defines children's experiences because we don't connect with it. Maximum we have connected with is Facebook, Instagram, and those kinds of platforms. So both sides are struggling to talk about something that is literally ruling our lives. So it's not an easy conversation. So the internet, I'm just clubbing it under the whole bucket of internet right now. What it has done, or the idea or the philosophy of internet, is to open up information to everyone. Information and knowledge should be free and accessible, and everyone across the world should be able to have their hands on it. It's not something that should be kept away from some and some others should have access to. So the internet is essentially defined the freedom of expression, entertainment, the ability to find support, new experiences, creativity, finding acceptance online. Sitting in one part of the world, you could connect with somebody who thinks like you, feels like you, although people around you don't really get your experiences, right? So that's what the ethos of internet is. But do we also know that there are some of these issues that have also come up with the internet? And yes, I wanted to reiterate that you can take pictures of any of the slides that you find valuable. So a lot of youngsters, and these bubbles, the pink bubbles that I have put out there, these are not the more complicated issues that other people talk about. These are essentially experiences of youngsters coming across false information, hacking, low self-esteem, hate, addiction, harassment, isolation. Isolation is a strong one that's becoming even more of a challenge in the coming days. So there are these experiences that we're also familiar with, right? I promise this is my most boring slide with a stat on it, and this will be it. But this is important for parents to know. This is a very recent study done by Sapien Labs in May 2023 across a generation of 18 and 24-year-olds, about 28,000 of them, which essentially indicates the darker blue line is males and the light blue is females, all right? This is the age at which they were given smartphones or tablets. And this is the distress level, or from distress to thriving, what's their quotient? So this study has proven that the mental health quotient of males, when they were given a smartphone at the age of 5 or 6, would be at that. And if they were given a smartphone towards 18, then it would be much better. So the earlier access to smartphones and tablets have been proven to have a detrimental effect on the mental health of children, growing, developing minds. And this is females, a much more steep curve, right? There are reasons why that is. It does not make smartphones evil. It is just that there are aspects of businesses, corporates and government and political reasons that tend to take us away from the productive side of internet towards the distractive side. And it's none of our faults. It's not the children's fault. It's not the parents' faults. So I want to reiterate that once again. So that's basically the summary of the stats. I'm not going to go through that. And as we begin, I also want to clearly show the spectrum that most of us fall on, right? So it's either too positive. The approach towards technology is either too positive, which is characterized by blind faith in technology, that everything that technology brings is magical, good for us, or there is apathy that, everybody's on it, what can I do about it? Without it, I cannot thrive, right? So that is too positive. And the other side is too negative, where people are so afraid of new technologies, so afraid of change, that they don't want to even listen to anything that could be productive about it. The topic today, the conversation today will focus on the middle of it, which is critical thinking. Examining your experiences online for a more mindful, informed engagement with technology. And that is the essence of information literacy, which is what we at Citizen Digital Foundation encourage and foster. It is the ability to understand, analyze, access, of course, technologies from a critical point of view and having more productive experiences. It's like how we have rules for our everyday life, right? When we step out, there are things that we're careful about. In the real world, when we navigate, there are a lot of things that we're careful about. The same thing applies online as well. We need to know and we need to understand and then make our decisions. So we'll begin with what makes us all reach out for our screens. That is essentially the question that will lead us to how algorithms or extractive algorithms behind the first interaction of artificial intelligence through social media works. The expectation, so the whole expectation reality meme is what I'm drawing from. What is the expectation that we have of the internet, right? We are seeking either information or knowledge through search platforms. We're seeking entertainment through entertainment and streaming platforms. We seek connection through social media platforms, and we do commerce, either business or even buying stuff online is basically commerce. These are the reasons why we approach the internet. And it is supposed to be met in a linear fashion where we are offered a lot of choice, as opposed to the real world. Online options are way more. It's largely free. The solutions are intuitive and personalized. And in the process, it helps us find the solution that we're seeking. That's the linear relationship. And in the process, we have developed trust in the platforms that we engage with. It's like having that friend in school or college that you really love hanging out with because they bring so much, joy into our lives. They know some things. They have skills that you like to learn from. They inspire you. And they're also people who understand your deepest, darkest fears. You confide in them. You trust them. And they support you. They're with you when you need them the most. They get you like nobody else. So that's the relationship of trust that we build with some of the platforms as well. Now, I'd like to just focus on how extractive technologies work or engage with our brains. Now, this is a very reductive diagram of the brain. If I think Dr. Pramit is around, he would really chide me for this. But this is a very simplistic design that talks about the orange or the amber color is what is known as the monkey brain or the limbic brain or the lizard brain, which is where our primal impulses are seated, emotions and impulses. So these are the three basic instincts, what they are known as: survival, social, and sexual. A lot of these, most of these primal instincts drive us towards impulsive decisions. In human evolution, the blue part of the brain happened much later. So that's the rational part of the brain that makes us ask or question things. That developed much later. The characteristic of our limbic brain or our lizard brain or a monkey brain is that there are a whole bunch of negative valence emotions or negative emotions. These emotions are there in every human being. It's not that one person has a lot of bad emotions and they're essentially a bad person. It's our ability to regulate these emotions with our blue part of the brain that makes us civil people living in a society, having good exchanges with each other. So there are some big words here: schadenfreude, voyeurism. These are all aspects that arise from our very primal thinking. A lot of times when we are in these negative states of mind, we tend to seek solutions because we don't want to continue in that state, right? When we're happy, peaceful, and content, we'd like to continue in that state, but none of these states we want to continue in. So typically we'd go out, play with a friend, play a sport, play with our pets, read a book, speak to people in our family, just want to shirk that mood off. But today this has been replaced by the smartphone because of the extractive design that has gone into it. the design of a lot of these products have stemmed from very, very deep researches and studies of behavior, human behavior, which makes it very easy to replace some of our real experience that we thrive on with what is happening through the dopamine bursts on mobiles. So it could be reels, and we'll talk about a few design elements later. Just to demonstrate how that works out in real life, how impulses work out is when we feel really angry about something, we might want to break something or abuse someone, right? That is an impulsive reaction, demonstrating that anger. Or we want to just spend our whole day lazily having our favorite junk food, watching our favorite screen or movie or anything like that. Or when we see a chocolate cake or anything, any of our favorite food, for instance, a jalebi and me today, I saw it, I had to eat it. That's my impulse. But then the blue part of the brain is what tells us what you should or shouldn't do. If you feel angry, there's a way to behave. Maybe breaking things may not be the best idea. So what should you do? How do you control your anger? That's what the blue part of the brain tells you. When you're watching, like binge watching series or having your favorite snack, at some point you know that you have a project to do. I can't do this all day, so I need to get up and move. Similarly, with the chocolate cake or the jalebi, it's like one is enough or two is enough. Don't have more than that. If you have more than that, maybe it's not good for your health or several other reasons. So that's how the rational and the limbic brain are defined. So what extractive technologies do is crowd our brains with seductive, surprising, scary, shocking content. And these are essentially psychological tactics that target our vulnerabilities purely to get or harvest attention, which Ashim and a few others spoke about earlier, is primarily what many of the platforms benefit from. It's in their interest. So again, demonstrating how the algorithms work, there's a productive side to the internet and digital media, right? You go online to search for something, you want to learn something, you want to, get healthy, or you even want to get entertainment, follow your favorite celebrities. But then there's a darker side to the internet. Suicide challenges, violent content, child sexual abuse material, trolling, depicting children in highly sexualized ways, even if it's in the form of innocuous reels. Now, many would say that there are productive and distractive sides, but it's up to me what I choose to do. Many times parents also advise children that you should seek out more positive experiences. But the difference where it becomes very challenging for children is that the design aspects of the platforms are such that even though you go online searching for a specific thing, you will end up scrolling into various other thumbnails and clickbaity elements on your own because they are that captivating. That is how the algorithms are written. The algorithms are not evil. Algorithms are codes basically telling the system what to reward, what to not reward. But when the algorithm is trained to reward efficiency over what is right, that's where the problem begins. And what is efficiency for many businesses? It's how much engagement are we getting? How much ratings are we getting, TRPs, or how many eyeballs are we getting and for how long? So if people are spending a lot of time online, it makes them a good product to show advertising to. And that is why the algorithms work on effectiveness and not what is right. Which is why a lot of youngsters would be familiar with the Japanese suicide forest videos or violent videos or action videos or sexual videos, which tend to show things like someone earlier was saying, something that a 17-year-old should be watching is shown to a 10-year-old. Or the Peppa Pig video, a 2-year-old who's watching YouTube, even YouTube Kids, is slowly taken down a rabbit hole of violent Peppa Pig videos. If you click on ads or other thumbnails, you're slowly taken down Elsa and the Spider-Man. They all degenerate into uglier content slowly. And it's only when you keep scrolling or you have a lot more time to kind of engage with technology for a long time that these rabbit holes take over. Which is why a mindful pause is always encouraged after every 30 minutes because that's when your blue part of the brain kicks in. Let's look at a few design elements. Smooth user interface. These are all good things for product developers because it makes product developers and us because it makes our experiences much better. It's not like in the dial-up days when we or our generation had to wait for one page to load, click on 5 links for the next page to load. Now everything is much smoother. Red alerts, something that is anxiety inducing. There's a lot of graphical elements on your phones that will ask you to subscribe now, follow now, watch now, next episode in 5 seconds, no break, because it's all speaking to that primal impulsive brain. Autoplay. Try switching off your autoplay feature on any of the social media platforms you use, and you will see a dramatic decrease in the time you scroll. Autoplay is a design feature that is made in such a way that in the first 1.5 seconds of your scrolling, it will grab your attention and make you want to watch that reel, and the reel after that, and the reel after that, and you cannot get off. Try switching off the autoplay and you'll see a dramatic reduction. 24-hour stories speaks to FOMO, fear of missing out. What happens? What if I don't see that story from my friend after 24 hours or from that celeb? What's that update? It is so intertwined with the culture or the identity that some of the earlier panelists were speaking about. Your identity is defined by what you know and don't know today. Do you know that Taylor Swift has dropped a new song? Do you know that there is a concert happening next door that the others are going to, but you don't? And everything is happening on your social media platforms. So it's so intertwined with your culture that it's not easy to get off. And when there are more design elements that speak to that fear, it engages you more. And these are just designs to engage, not addict. Infinite scroll is a huge technological innovation that the innovators themselves are talking about as a huge waste of time. What used to take several clicks to take you to the other page is now just as a matter of scrolling. It's just an easy design interface. Variable rewards. They mean nothing but giving you a like or number of likes on one instance and not giving you the same number of likes or followers on another instance. So you don't know when you will be rewarded, how much you will be rewarded, whether you will be rewarded, and you keep posting, keep seeking that validation, that social validation through that feature. Filters. This is known as one of the most toxic elements that have slowly pervaded, especially young girls' minds, is that there is never an ideal that you will be happy with when you're using filters. And this has been one of the huge contributing factors right from Snapchat to Instagram in making young girls feel less than. Because once you start using a filter, you feel, and filters are not just about clearing up skin. It also enhances some of your facial features like your jawline, like your eyebrows, like your eyes. You don't realize how much it is altering your face, but slowly filters make you feel like that's what you should look like. It is directly linked with rise in cosmetic surgeries. A lot of cosmetic surgeons across the world have spoken about how people come to them, youngsters come to them with images saying, I want to look like this. The purpose of all this, all these design elements and extractive design elements, is to either keep us continuously consuming content, like I mentioned earlier, because our attention is precious, our attention is a product, or continuously creating content. So we want to document everything that we do, right from our morning breakfast to the biggest achievement to the smallest achievement. Everything has to be on social media, right? So that's that feeling that is so deeply driven within us, that it becomes very difficult at a point to extricate from that. And when you do try to stop, even for a week, you feel extremely anxious. It's not easy to go off these habits. Now, I'll recall a few lines from Charlie Maxey's book. I hope some of you would have read this book. Yes, I'm sure. I'm a huge fan as well. So one of the lines that really stood out for me was, what do you think is the biggest waste of time? And the mole says, comparing yourself to others. Gem of a line, very precious. Try and recall this when you are in that moment where you're feeling that, hey, my friend posted this, but I don't think I have it in me to share that about me. That's a waste of time. You have what you have, and your friend has what they have. And oftentimes, that's the second line, when your friends are posting about a fantastic, story, great thing that makes you want to think, wow, that's so cool. So this is what the boy, when I think the boy looks at a couple of swans and asks, they look so together and perfect. It's such an ideal that the social media images are showing. But the fact is that there's a lot of paddling underneath. It's a struggle to keep up. The influencers that make it look so fascinating are all struggling. They talk about mental health issues all the time. It's not easy. So small, tiny quiz. I'm going to put up two texts on the screen. I'm going to roll it out. I want you to tell me whose words they are. All right? Ready? Go on. I'm sure somebody knows. Yeah. Yes. Any more Swifties here? I was yes, come on. Why didn't you guess that? So that's a Swiftie line, Taylor Swift's line. And the next one is, yes. There's a lot of adults now going, yes, Hotel California. So with those two lines, what I've essentially done is I have demarcated the audiences and the age groups, like a good marketer would do. And this is just without knowing any one of you, I just know that there is an age classification and the kind of content that some people would relate to versus another kind of content that another group of people will relate to. Even within that, not everybody will fall in. This is not an absolute generalization, but marketing essentially works on this fundamental thing that there are different kinds of people who like different kinds of things. And this is just a happy incident to relate with. Not everything is always this happy. 100 clicks or likes is enough for a platform to understand our ocean personality. I'll get into what ocean personality is. That's just the 5 basic personality traits that all of us human beings have. 150 likes or clicks is enough for them, the platforms, to understand us as well as a family member or as a spouse. 300 likes is all it takes for the platforms to understand us better than we do. Yes, the platforms understand us better than we do. We keep claiming that they're giving us bad recommendations, but they actually know the difference between user attitude versus user behavior. We don't have the time to get into that, but that's a conversation for another time. And that is why data people or the tech companies that thrive on extractive tech find our data so precious. They want to know everything about us, but very little transparency on what they do or how they use our data, right? So that's ocean personality, really big words, but essentially what it means is all of us have a certain degree of openness to experiences, to learning new things. All of us have a certain degree of consciousness, sorry, that's a big word for me, the ability to kind of question ourselves on whether this is right or wrong. Extroversion, some of us are extroverts, some of us are introverts, so we all fall on different varying degrees of these. Agreeableness, some of us agree too quickly to certain situations and some of us resist. Neuroticism is essentially fear. And fear and anger are the two most potent emotions that can be targeted for impulsive responses. When you're angry or when you're afraid about anything is the easiest, or you're the most vulnerable at that point for any ad or any communication to manipulate you. This is just a visual demonstration of that. Everybody knows of the gladiator sport back, what the Romans used to enjoy, right? This is another very primal instinct targeting sport. A different era, a different context, a different culture. But essentially what the people are egging for is for the stronger person to kill the other person, right? We would say that we are above all this now. We wouldn't want anybody to kill the other person, right? But that's a spectacle that people pay for. Do you think that there is any similarity in our online lives these days? Our comment sections. How brutal are our comment sections, right? People come with popcorns to just read the comments. We all go with like, okay, what's going to happen now? So what's happening is we are essentially being polarized. If you like black and I like white, if we meet at the coffee shop outside, we can have a chat about it and I can agree, I can learn about why you like black and you can learn about why I like white. But what we are doing on social media is that I will hate you for liking black and you will hate me for liking white. And we will constantly disagree because every disagreement is an emoji or a comment which is engagement for the platform. It's theater, it's spectacle. So what social media intended to do originally was to give us freedom of expression, to express ourselves freely, the ability that we could say or share our thoughts. But what it is rewarding instead is hate, anger, trolling, and toxic content. I will not go into the algorithmic weightage of stuff, but This is about Twitter. This is essentially a study on that. Every moral, emotional word used receives between 17 to 24% more engagement. So moral, emotional content. Content that's written in more divisive and inflammatory language is consistently more engaging. False news travels 6 times faster than truthful news. And that is essentially what is responsible for distorting our understanding of another opinion, another side, whatever it is. Cats versus dogs, jalebi versus rasgulla, black versus white, Hindu versus Muslim, anything. So that linear relationship that we expect from the internet essentially becomes a vicious circle. And at some point, we're given a false sense of autonomy. What does that mean? We rationalize our engagement online. We say that, hey, I decided to watch 8 episodes. I decided to scroll for 6 hours. But it's often not that. You check one notification and you go on social media, but you end up scrolling for several hours later. That's not your decision. That's a platform. You decide to watch 1 movie or 2 episodes on a streaming platform, but you end up binge watching throughout the night, wake up groggy. That's not your decision. Your decision ended with 2 episodes. After that, the platform takes over. And that is the rabbit hole which essentially defines the reality today. And that friend, that relationship of trust that we have with that friend who really gets us and who supports us, suddenly starts to become a slightly toxic relationship where they offer us quick fixes, make us happy in the moment, feels like a great solution because it makes us happy. And that friend is somehow incentivized to keep us constantly addicted. It's not just once or twice. It's that constant addiction. Keep watching. And then you realize that it's not that friend, or the friend is not working in your interest. Instead, he or she is being rewarded in the form of advertising. And that is how the extractive tech business models work. They are designed, they are intentional in their purpose to make or keep us addicted or glued to screens. And how does this affect us in real life? If we have a certain aspiration to, let's say, become a great public speaker or clear a test or, win at a sport or learn a new skill, there's a goal that we have towards that. And that journey is often riddled with the whole process of learning, practicing, failing often, and learning from those failures, improving, proving, and maintaining. It's not an easy process. It requires focus, effort, diligence, practice. But the achievements are substantial, and like Ida and Tanish in the morning were speaking about, it's a rewarding experience. It helps you build cognitive and social skills. However, the vicious cycle of technology that takes you into its loop often hijacks your goals. Maybe you wanted to actually, become a great debater, but when you end up scrolling for a long time, you suddenly want to become a social media influencer because it all appears so easy. Goal hijacking and a lot of youngsters wanting to become social media influencers without understanding of what it entails has been again found in studies between US and China. Unfortunately, there are not enough studies happening in India, so we don't have those examples, but these have been established. All right, what do you see on the screen now? 2 circles, yellow and red, both the same size, right? Yes? Anybody? Somebody said no. Yeah, thank you very much. They're not the same size. One is bigger than the other. Can you tell me which one? So if you think red is bigger, raise your hands. Red is bigger. If you think yellow is bigger, raise your hands. Most people think yellow is bigger. Now, what I've just done is actually tricked you. They are the same size. Thank you. But what you right now said, either yellow or red, and not everyone said that, some of you said. It does not depict your intelligence. It's basically our relationship. You have placed a certain trust in me, and I just played with your trust. That's all that happened here. It's that equation that I played with, right? So always understand that it is easy to play you, fraud you, scam you, regardless of who you are or who we are. All of us are susceptible to some kind of manipulation, right? All right, next one. Now here, 2 orange circles surrounded by gray circles. What do you see? I'm saying that the 2 orange circles are the same size. Am I right? Do you believe me? If you believe me, yes. If you don't believe me, there are some people who don't believe me. I have tricked you again. It is actually Ebbinghaus illusion, and my intention is not to trick you, but to establish the point that 2 minutes back, I just played with your trust. That's why some of you lost trust in me, but then I played with your lack of trust in me. So it's possible to go both ways, right? So I want to share a little anecdote here. In my very first job as a copywriter, this was one of the first lessons that I learned from my boss, Swaroop BR, who's an excellent communicator, that once you develop the power to communicate well, in any language, Punjabi, Marathi, English, anything, visual language, sign language, text, song, it is very easy and tempting and inviting to trick people with that power, to play with people's mind with that power. Because it's the easiest thing to do. Hey, I just fooled you. That was great. I felt good. It happens all the time for reasons of profit, politics, reputation, ego, even just for lols, right? But the crucial difference when you have that power is that if you are able to understand that the difficult part of that is having the wisdom and the prudence to use it responsibly, that power. That is what differentiates us or you from ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a powerful tool. It has skills, it has knowledge, it's been trained on immense data. It can perform magic. It is extremely convincing. It's a super technology, but it does not reason or understand why it is giving a certain answer. It can convince you, but it does not understand. The human ability to understand and reason why and what you should do with the power of communication is what differentiates us, and I don't think that power is going to be easily taken away by a technology anytime soon. There is a race towards that, but that still is, so critical thinking, decision making, autonomous thinking towards what values are right, to prioritizing what is right and wrong is a human skill. Technology cannot replace that. Right, moving on. On screen, do you recognize anyone in that picture? Yes? Who's that? Indra Nui. All right. Anybody else? Thank you for responding to that. Since we don't have much time, I'm going to just speed that up. All of them are generated images. None of them are real people. You can say this by the plastic look of some of the skins. And in the Indian context, this is the only image that we might understand or relate or have context to. And we'll know that somebody who wears a sari does not have a pallu on this side and that side, right? And another giveaway is she has 2 left hands. Of course, you wouldn't have had the time to look at those images in detail, and it can trick anyone. But that's how convincing generative AI is. This is developed by an app called Midjourney in its 3 or 4 versions back. Today, it is much more advanced in its quality. These plastic skin features and all have been removed. Image depth and quality, grains to the skin have all been improved. And it's growing at a fast pace. All right, so these are all people that are not real. What about this? Real people? Know them? Yes. Obama and Angela Merkel, that's right. They're real people, but the pictures are not real. They're generated. But because I'm talking about it in this context, you will understand that these are generated images. But just imagine if you are to open the newspaper or see the news one day and see that Obama and Merkel are in retirement. They went to Cannes and they posed for this picture. Correct. Quite believable, right? That's how our realities and truth is going to be distorted. So I'm going to just quickly move over the park in the Balenciaga puffer jacket. Quite a popular one. It keeps improving the light, shadow, everything else. Right. That could be still believable, but fake. So that's the introduction of generative AI. I have to really, really go fast now because I have 5 minutes. Used in advertising and cinema, great advantages. Can't go through each of these examples. Don't have the audio to play this, but it's essentially Messi speaking in flawless English that went viral, but it's a generated video. Generative AI has huge advantages in finding solutions for climate change. automobile safety, can't get into all this in detail now, healthcare and medicine in ways that all of us put together cannot achieve quickly, but the tech can empower us to find solutions way more faster, safety in high-risk jobs and all. However, what has changed with generative AI are three things. One is what used to be surreal, what we used to think that happens in cinema and CGI is now hyper-real, like we saw in some of the instances earlier, that they are quite believable. They look too real. The other is efficiency. What used to take supercomputers, experts to create can now be done on apps, and it is accessible to everyone. It's available on mobile apps for everyone to play with. So like we had a good laugh with some of the other things. It's all fun and games for now. There's a lot of entertainment coming out of generative AI at this point, but there's a lot more to worry about. A fake voice call. Someone using your voice, using voice synthesis technology to send a fake or harmful message. Your face or identity being used for a criminal activity or to defraud someone. Deepfake pornography, a huge concern among youngsters currently. Distortion of reality and facts, information overload. I will quickly just give a few examples of knowledge distortion. Famous painting by Johannes Vermeer, Girl with a Pearl Earring. But if you searched Google a few days back, it showed up the AI-generated version as the first instance. This instance has been corrected by Google because there was a lot of outcry. But let's imagine what a baby peacock looks like. If you're searching the internet for a project, we don't know what a baby peacock looks like. Do we know? We think it might look like the peacock, right? The bright, colorful one. This is me searching for a baby peacock yesterday night. And these images come up. This is a generated image. This is a generated image. If you don't know what a baby peacock looks like, you might believe this. But actually, it's the browner version that is real. How do you differentiate? Anybody knows these influencers? Lil Michaela, Amagram, Bermudez Bay. Huge followers, millions of followers. They sell merchandise, they endorse products, but they are virtual beings. They're not real people. AI-generated books on Amazon, flooding them. And this is a huge concern, isolation, being created. Because my time is up. All right. Artificial intimacy, apps that make you believe that these are real people that you can have a relationship with. Youngsters and even grown-ups are having relationships with artificial beings, and it is taking over the mental health crisis to another level altogether. Last few words, reminding you that it is not about 100% faith in technology, blind faith, or about completely dissing the whole thing. It is about asking the crucial questions, how, what, and why. And if I am to equate it to another powerful technology, it's like driving a fast car. All of us love driving, let's say, I don't know, we don't have access to possibly, but a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a Bugatti, it's great for so many reasons, right? The speed, the thrill, the cool quotient of it. But the boring part is, to get a license, we need to follow certain rules. Road rules, understanding safe driving, driver's responsibilities, and a certain age criteria before we get the license. So we need to learn the rules first before we start using a potent technology, is the idea. And that is what essentially differentiates whether you blindly follow the Pied Piper under the spell, or whether you are that child that will call out that the emperor has no clothes. So that's a difference. So question yourself whether you use technology or whether the technology uses you. That's my time. Questions? Also, thank you very much. Thank you. I would love to have some questions openly, but typically in sessions like these where there are adolescents who want to ask some questions, they don't feel comfortable asking. We ask them to send us a private question. We do not collect any data, no names, no identities, just the question, and if you have any feedback, that's all. And we'll be happy to address those questions. We often get questions in DMs when we take virtual sessions, so please feel free. And please, any questions?
Thanks. I think it was a wonderful session. I kind of, at least I'm guessing that you may have read that book by Shoshana Zuboff, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, and a lot of concepts and fundamentals are quite resonating to me, and I kind of truly believe in that, the digital has the power to distort the facts, and, also we can benefit a lot. But you mentioned a word called extractive tech, right? And I think Shoshana also in her book she mentions behavioral surplus that they extract. So do you think these two concepts are similar or there's some difference?
So behavioral surplus in the context that Shoshana Zuboff talks about, I'm not sure I recall that exactly, but extractive tech is essentially what differentiates between where that line between persuasion and coercion is drawn. Marketing can persuade you to buy things, right? And marketing is fair game. But coercion, knowing secrets about you, knowing what you're afraid of, knowing your search history, your browser history, or what are the things that you engage with secretly, and then using that against you to coerce you to buy my product is the difference. That is where it gets extractive and it moves away from the space of persuasion. Yeah, behavioral surplus was in that context. Right? So in fact, I have a few book recommendations, but these they are all non-fiction, and maybe parents would like to take a photo of this. There are a few documentaries. I would really recommend TikTok Boom and Coded Bias to youngsters as well. The Great Hack. Oh yes, to youngsters I would specially recommend the digital natives taking on big tech. You will hear names like Zaman Qureshi and Emma Lemke in the US, who were 16-year-olds when they understood the impact of extractive tech on mental health of growing children. And they have consistently worked, and they've developed a platform called Design It For Us, or it's a movement called Design It For Us. And they're influencing senators in the US to take decisions towards age-appropriate design in internet products or digital media products. So I would really recommend that you check that out on YouTube. And there's a bunch of books. All right. You can always catch me somewhere out there.